My name is Parker Kelly. Sadly, my partner, Christy, could not make it due to life and lack of funding. The link, as I mentioned, is right there. This is a resource, so there's a lot of information on this slideshow, so I hope you can take it home with you and play around with some of the options that I'm going to put forth. This year, well, actually, ever since last Q, and it may have been in this very room, my goal was to present. And I'm very excited to be here, and I hope you are as well. I realize it's very humbling to follow Brad Montague, if you saw him, and I thought he was fantastic. So last time I presented, it was in a 15-seat classroom with 3 teachers. So hopefully my message will go straight to you in the same fashion it did in that small classroom. And then my other goal is not to go to the emergency room. Last year at Q, I did. It was for a bad ear infection, but as I see it, it only enhanced my memories. So I know it's just the first day, but I feel good about it. So I think I can accomplish my 2 goals. So I'm a technology teacher. I teach exclusively 7th and 8th graders at a small public school right near Stanford University called La Entrada. And Christy, she wanted me at least to mention her. She's in Pacifica, right on the coast, and we got together and worked on this slideshow. And I want to mention that, remember a year ago I said I was inspired to speak? Well, the reason I'm here today, or at least came up with this presentation, is because of John Carippo. And I'd like to make a shout out to him. I don't know if he's going to make a cameo. I spoke to him yesterday. He's a very busy guy. If you have never seen him speak, you must see him. And I think he has 3 presentations at this conference. And he's headed the Q Rockstar program. So he put forth some ideas last year that inspired me. And what I'm trying to do is relay that to you in a more tangible way. So why am I up here? Throughout history, we've witnessed fantastic speakers, Brad Montague. And so it's very difficult as a teacher if maybe you don't have the same talent, charisma, if you're not as articulate. I certainly don't. We may not stand and deliver in the same way as other inspiring figures or seize the day. As we all know, our students come in all shapes, sizes, and abilities with their own concerns, their own thoughts. We're not exactly preaching to the choir when we get up in front of our students. They may be distracted by many things in their lives. So I've always wondered why, if students don't always understand us, why do we keep talking at them and saying the same thing over and over in the same way? What I'm hoping to do today is to give you a toolkit on how to speak to students in a way that helps them collaborate, builds in repetition for what they're studying on any unit, anything that they teach. And I may be a technology teacher by trade. I think this can be applied to any subject. And students will synthesize, they'll build things. And if you so wish, you'll give them a chance to practice their public speaking skills by presenting in front of their peers and receiving feedback. And then hopefully at the end, the assessment will be the fun part not the drudgery. In other words, it's the 4 C's: collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, and I always forget the 4th one. Oh yeah, communication. And that's the hard part. We've all spent a lot of money and time getting the infrastructure in, but now how do we make the most out of it? And so hopefully I can give you a blueprint on how to do that. So how? This is what John spoke about in his presentation last year. He talked about engaging your students right off the bat with a variety of different tools. These are 3 examples. At the end of my slideshow, I have a whole bunch more that you can try out so that you don't continually do the same things. So hopefully you've heard of some of these. If not, I'll give you a little tour. So one way to get them interested is using Quizlet or Purpose Games or Nearpod. And if you don't know what those are, don't worry, I'll go over those. For deeper understanding of whatever topic you are going to teach them, you can use Google Slides. And I'll go over how that can be used. And then finally, play around with some very engaging, very exciting assessment tools, Quizzes and Kahoot, which are very complementary. But to me, they're sort of the glue. You know, I heard of all these programs, and I was interested in all of them, but for me, I needed some sort of plan. And that's what John talked about. It's sort of the secret sauce, and it's really transformed what I've done over the past year on how I structure my units of study. So let's dive in. The first thing, and you may have learned this when you were, that 5-step lesson plan, you had to include the anticipatory set. You wanted to get them excited. And if not excited, at least aware. Maybe they'd lift their head up. Maybe they'd be curious. And then build in some repetition on whatever, maybe it's a whole bunch of vocabulary words, or just a big picture overview of what they're studying, and in a way that I think will make them at least wanting to learn a little bit more. So Quizlet, how many of you have used Quizlet? It's been around a long time, well, relatively speaking. In essence, they're virtual flashcards. And there's games students can play to help reinforce concepts. But after using it for a while, initially I wasn't very excited by Quizlet, but after a while I realized there were some very cool parts of it, and I just want to emphasize those. So here's a screenshot. You can see the different types of activities on the top. There's flashcards, all the way to gravity. And those are games that are built in. But they're just different ways for them to study the flashcards: visual, auditory, and interactive. But the one feature that really stood out for me is the test function. And what I have students do is, after they've studied the flashcards for a while, I'll give them the test right there online. I'll have them choose the question types on the right. I usually do matching or multiple choice. I usually start having them start with the term, start with the definition, or both. And then the question limit is 36, but it could be less. That's where you can sort of differentiate. If you don't want the students to spend too much time, or if they're struggling. But what I'd have them do is take the test, and I'd say, you must get an A- or better. So I'm forcing them to get a good grade. And let's say they get a B+. Well, they have to take it again. And if they get a B+ again, they take it again. And this built-in repetition helps them just to kind of initially cram all the information into their head. And I know that's not good for long-term learning, but it's a way to get them to start understanding the concepts. If they struggle, it's taking too long, I lower, instead of 36 questions, I lower it, okay? So there's some built-in adjustments that I like about it, and it's a good way to build in some repetition. So that's what I like about Quizlet, and it's a good way to introduce or start a topic. Purpose games. How many of you have used purpose games? Think of it as a visual quiz where you have a picture. You've probably seen them online where you have a map of the United States, and then there's a question, where's California? And then you have to click on the part of the map that's California. You can do it for any picture. So let me just give you a quick glimpse. So I teach video broadcasting. I always had a problem. In order to teach them the hardest piece of equipment, and I may have had 25 students, I only had one video mixer. How do I get them all on it at once to look at it? Well, with this, you can take a photo, upload it to Purpose Games, and add questions. So once you hit play, there'll be a question up top, and then they have to search on the picture for that object and click on it, and if they get it right, they get to move on. And it's a game to them because it times them. And they can earn badges, they can compete in tournaments, and they get really excited. And even though they might get 100%, they do it in a minute, and they go, wait, I can do it faster. So again, it builds in this repetition, and they keep playing it and playing it and playing it. Even though they understand it, they're just trying to build, better their speed. And then, and have bragging rights. So I highly recommend Purpose Games. Great for visual learners. And it's great for showcasing things that might be hard for you to share with students. But, for science or math, if you have to dissect anything, you can share a picture and have them identify the parts. Nearpod. Any Nearpod users? So think of Nearpod as PowerPoint or Google Slides that students cannot escape from and have built-in questions that check for understanding. So the way it works, students, either on their computer, mobile device, they would go to the Nearpod site and put in a pin, a session pin. And what you're doing is you're inviting them to your slideshow, which you've created in Nearpod. And just like a slideshow, which is normally very passive and it's easy to fall asleep in front of, it has information on it. But here's the beauty of Nearpod. So they look at this slide, and I teach them broadcast journalism. I want them to understand or how a news story is structured. So I can go over this and talk to them about it, but how do I know they actually are understanding? So built into Nearpod, you can insert questions. They can be multiple choice, short answer, or you can have them draw to show off what you're showing to them. So they would see this question. I would get feedback either on my computer or on my iPad, and I can see every single student's response. And if I want to see even more detail, I'll click on it, and it'll blow it up, and then I can see exactly what they did, and I can, while I'm doing the presentation, I can come up to a student and say, you drew a square. You may want to rethink this one. And that way, you can check for understanding, give them hints, so that later they'll be ready for that final assessment. So it's like you're giving them individualized instruction. in a way you can't do in just a plain old slideshow. Okay? So that's Nearpod, and those are 3 tools you can use to introduce a lesson. Okay? They're the 3 that I chose, and I'll show you others as well. So now that you've broken the ice on your topic, now it's time to go in depth. You want them to build knowledge. You want them to practice the 4 C's, higher order thinking with Bloom's, Gardner's multiple intelligences, all that good stuff, including the jigsaw method. And if you don't know what that is, I'll go over that in a sec. The beauty of Google Apps, you can collaborate with 50 people at once on the same document, whether it's docs, sheets, or slides. I'm going to focus on slides, and I want to show you a template. With Google Slides, you can set up a collaborative project where students can work with a group, however big or small you want it to be, and they can work on a whole slew of slides together. It gets them out of their seat. They can talk to each other, say, I'm going to do slides 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 because I want to do these terms or these concepts. So the way I set up my Google Slides is I'll have a title slide with explicit directions on whatever we're studying, and I'll tell them what the groups are. Whenever you're sharing a slideshow that you want students to work on, I allow it to be shared with them. And hopefully you understand this. I don't have time to go into the specifics, but a lot of the resources are in my slide. But when you share a slideshow, you can make it so that they can view it only. Very important, because if you allow them to edit right off the bat, they will start editing the master slideshow, and then everybody in the room will just see your edits. But if you make it so that you share it with them so they can only view it, you would have a student leader in each group make a copy of the slideshow. That slideshow goes to their Google Drive, and then only they can edit that slide, and they're not messing it up for everybody. And then that group leader will then share it with everybody who's in their group, so they're learning how to share a document. And then they can go to town and start editing and doing what they need to. And so when they have these slides, which you've set up, it's best not to leave it blank. It's a little too open-ended. You may want to structure it, scaffold it, so they know a little more precisely what they want to include. And I don't know if you've heard of the Freyer model. The Freyer model has been around a while, and you start with your word or concept in the middle. And so I would provide that for the students on the slide. And then they'd have 4 categories. But they would start by thinking about examples, non-examples, things that might be confused for that term. And that's usually the hard part for the students. Characteristics, pictures, and then, of course, the actual definition. And you can have them do that last if you want. It's up to you. So here's an example of one that you might want to do if you're an English teacher, if you're studying what sonnets are. With their group, they figure out, okay, I'll do sonnet, or hey, how about you do the definition, you look up information about the characteristics. They start delegating amongst each other, and what's cool is they do most of this on their own. I kind of point them in the general direction. With younger kids, I think you have to be more explicit, like elementary. Middle school, high school, they'll take off a little quicker. In math, history, Or you can make up your own Frayer. This is my abomination that I created for a video lesson where we watch YouTube videos and would dissect them. So I wanted to have more areas for them to look at. And here, I won't go into all this, but these are just the directions or ways you can add a Frayer model template to a Google slideshow so that when you create this slideshow or make a new slide, every single slide's background is the Frayer model, and it's embedded, and students can't accidentally click on it and delete it, which they so often do. This way, they just type the information and don't have to worry about messing up the background. Okay, so you can do this in PowerPoint, you can do it in Google Slides. And the jigsaw method, it's just a way where a group, like the red, green, yellow, and blue, you can assign them different roles, and then each person who's a green will meet up with other greens to compare notes, and then when they're done, they come back to their original group and share out what they learned about their particular part of the presentation. Okay, fun part. How many of you have used Quizzes? How many of you have used Kahoot? Oh yeah. So I have students begging me every day to do Kahoots. Quizzes and Kahoot are good complementary activities. Kahoot is a synchronous presentation tool, meaning it's best done together. It's a great way to do an assessment. It's like a game show, and you tend to do it together. The most people I've had involved in a Kahoot was 96. Maybe I'll break it today, I don't know. I think there might be more than that. But we're going to do a little review. You're going to have an assessment in Kahoot in a little bit, okay? Quizzes is a little different. Instead of having to do it together at the same time, Quizzes allows you to do it asynchronously, meaning when you share your quizzes, students can take each quiz at their own speed. So even though they may be in the same classroom, they can go faster and advance more quickly if they need to, or if they need more time, they get it. So, and here's a screenshot for Quizzes. You would go and, just like a Nearpod presentation, if you created a Quizzes assessment game, you would share with them a code. See how it's linked with Google Classroom. Very nice. And let's say it's a language arts parts of speech review, and you launch your game, and you're just waiting for the students to sign up, and you'll see their names once they sign in and put in their PIN and their name. You'll see whether or not your students are in. And it's a lot like Kahoot. And then you can give them the questions, and you can set a timer. There's all this music playing, and hopefully they won't get this, but they like to throw in little memes. Kahoot, it sounds like more of you are familiar with this, and what I'd like to do at this point is do a Kahoot. So if you could go to Kahoot.it, Kahoot it. You will see, either on your computer or on your device, there's a sample iPhone. You can do it from your phone, you can do it from your iPad, tablet, computer. You don't need a special app. You just you type in Kahoot it, and this is a very short assessment. Okay, are you ready? So, yeah, I think I'm sparing you the music is very catchy, can be a little repetitive, but that's part of the game. It kind of gets everybody excited. And whoa, look at all those people joining. We're already at 80. Well, we just set my record.
Here we go, still going.
And apparently, so I've heard, although I'm probably going to mess the Wi-Fi up here, I think they've had 1,000 people do a Kahoot. I mean, they'll have them in an auditorium. So, yeah. Well, we're actually in good time, and we'll have. I'll have an opportunity to take questions. So this will not take that long, if everybody signs up. Okay, we're at 2:24, and thank you. That has happened before, and I forgot. So I'll make sure everybody gets in. But I've had people show up late, and that for that very reason, you have to have that show up. I usually write it down somewhere, but that way they can join the game even if they're late. Should I go for it, or should I wait for 2:50? No? Okay. Let's go for it. Hippos is in, so I think it's time. So, who was the inspiration for this presentation? So you're going to see the multiple choices, and you have to choose the shape. And Bernie Dodge is also one of my heroes. WebQuest. Have you heard of WebQuest? Oh, good. Uh-oh. So right there, I can make fun of the people in red and blue, but and I've done Kahoots with students. Middle school, they don't really care too much about the standings. I mean, they of course want to be in the top 5, and you can turn this off. But it'll keep track of the top 5, and your score is based on the speed of your response as well as your accuracy. I'm not sure how it calculates it. I haven't really looked that up. Some students get really put off by this, though, so be careful. I've had younger students, if they weren't in the top 5, they gave up. And the other thing is, that one thing I don't like about it is they sometimes go so fast they make a mistake. And that's not good either. So you kind of have to battle this top 5 thing. All right, question 2. I was thinking about using Texas Hold'em, but oh, interesting. I might need to reflect as an educator. Was I clear? Again, this is formative assessment for you or me as well. So, oops. Okay. So, how many of you have heard of VoiceThread? I would have included this, except they charge a lot of money now. But the reason I would is because they add a component that it's harder to do on the other projects. So for Google Slides, you can add movies, you can add pictures, text. Audio is a little trickier. VoiceThread is all about that. You can have people collaborate on a topic, add little videos of themselves. You can do it from your phone, or just do an audio recording. And so that to me was really cool, but it wasn't exactly free. So I really like it. It's just it doesn't fit under my free title. Prezis. Have you used Prezis before?
Yes.
So if you're tired of Google Slides and you want the students to do something different, try a Prezi. Okay, and that's also on my list at the end. Okay, last question. Let's see if Bex kept their lead. Ooh.
Bex is trying.
Ooh, time's up. And our winner is Bex. Congratulations. Who is Bex? All right. Yeah, meet me at, let's see. Yeah, Taquitos, right at the corner. Yeah, there's a great taco shop right there. I'll see you there about 2 hours from now. No, congratulations. To spice it up, you can use different deeper understanding and assessment activities. Quizzes and Kahoot only do multiple choice, which is, you're going to make sure you find out if they got the answer right, but there's better ways to do assessment. Formative is a great tool. I've seen math teachers use it, and students can literally write like they're on a small little eraser board and write out their calculations for a problem, and the teacher can then look at it and go, oh, okay, this student gets it, this student doesn't, I need to help them. But let me go back to the Into. Padlet, how many of you have used Padlet? It's a virtual public board that you can contribute ideas to. Great for starting a topic to find out what the prior knowledge is that students might have on whatever unit of study you're doing. And so they can write on a wall and share their thoughts about what they know. Scoreboard is a virtual whiteboard. You can assign a virtual whiteboard on a website, and students can collaborate, draw, type, add pictures. I think it does audio and video as well. Zaption is one, Edpuzzle is another, PlayPosit, which used to be EduCanon. They are a great way to turn a video, just a plain old static video, into an interactive one. You can take a video from YouTube, make your own, add questions. You can embed questions so that students, as they watch the video, it'll stop and it'll ask them either to type up a short answer or longer one or multiple choice. And then that is Zaption. That's Zaption. And then MindMeister is a collaborative brainstorming tool so that students can just branch out and connect ideas. It's like that one tool, and now it's escaping me. You can do a brainstorm or mind map. Then Prezi, of course. And then there's WeVideo, which is a very powerful video editing tool. It's all online. And the great thing is you can collaborate, which sets it apart from like iMovie, where it's just one user. And then Socrative I mentioned, Formative. How many of you have done Goose Chase? You can organize a scavenger hunt. What will happen is students with their mobile devices can go wherever you send them, and they have to either take a picture, type, take a video. The video is only 10 seconds long to show that they either understand something or did something. A lot of companies use it for team building exercises. They might have people go out and they have to high-five a total stranger and take a picture of it. But I think with students, you can be a little more advanced with it. You can have them, maybe they have to find an example of different angles. So they have to go around the school campus and find a picture of a right angle. or an acute angle, or obtuse angle. I'm having them go around the school and doing mini field reports that have to be 10 seconds or less using the 5 W's. So there's a lot of great things you can do with Goose Chase. And again, it's free. So please explore those options, and you can take what I've done with the others. And I will say this, it takes some time to set these up. But for me, it truly was the glue that put all these great tools together in a purposeful way. Because it just seemed fractured. I was always trying something new here, doing this, and I was just throwing things at my students instead of having them go through a process which allowed them to really absorb the information that I'm sharing with them. And they had more fun doing it too. So that's all I have to say. I think that's it. Please email me if you have questions, and just keep exploring. I mean, there's just so much out there. And hopefully this helps and give you a little homework when you go back to your classroom. Thank you.